So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True buds, ayy.
There are two different ways that you can do your infusions. There's an active infusion and there's a passive infusion. So the active infusion is when you take the steps to decarb before you put it into whatever your infusion medium is, i.e. butter, oil, alcohol. But if you do a passive decarb, which is like you put in the whole bud in your butter, it'll take you longer to get to your decarboxylated infused final ingredient, but that way you know that you preserve a lot more of the terpene profile, which gives you like a broader range on the entourage effect, if you're familiar with that term.
Absolutely. And that's good
Yeah.
to hear, man, because that makes perfect sense, kind of like you were saying with the
Mhm.
long-term sous vide. So maybe like instead of how long would you say? Just I know this is like a random thing, but if I was doing like an infused
Yeah,
coconut oil, like, and I just
yeah.
um
So, like, so not oils or not all oils are treated the same. Some of them have higher or lower smoking points, and that will determine, or some of them have more bioavailability, meaning that you can, the cannabinoids will attach to the fatty chains in that if they're more readily available. So coconut oil is one of the most potent ones. Um, and olive oil is kind of like a little bit further down there. Um, so what I would say is that if you're going to do a passive decarb, which is a full spectrum extract, anywhere from 4 to 12 hours, depending on how low you want to have your temperature. And the longer it goes for and simmers, the more broader that spectrum of cannabinoids is going to be, and the flavor deepens. It's interesting, man. Like, fuck, bro. I swear this is strange, but like, if you do like a long passive infusion, it almost like, especially in a butter, it almost comes out tasting like bolognese. Like it gets this like meaty, flavorful. You're like, how the hell am I tasting garlic right now? You know what I mean? It's wild.
that's
It's
awesome,
cool.
man. You've
Uh-huh.
inspired me, and I'm gonna make a video on this and definitely give you a big shout out on that because man, you're already dropping some gems here. And now with that, when you were talking about the bioavailability aspect, do you use lecithin when you're making your infusions at all?
So it depends what I'm using it for. So I started, so this company here, Munchy Brothers, that I started is we started selling frozen infused cookie dough. So it's individually balled, frozen. You just have to bake it fresh when you want it, 375 in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes, and you have a freshly baked edible. And that was like our
That's
underground
awesome.
claim to fame. Yeah, totally. Because like, man, at the end of the day, it's like most of them out there, if they're not gummies or they're not that fresh. And that's really what we wanted to solve, or that's what I wanted to solve at the time was, okay, how am I going to make edibles fresh, taste good, and be dosed, like accurately dosed, you know?
Yeah,
Frozen infused frozen
you know,
infused cookie dough was the way. So when I was making those batches with the infused butter, I was using lecithin, which is just a natural binder. But typically I don't really add anything into my oil or fat extracts.
okay. Is it more of like to preserve the flavor aspect of it, or you just don't think it's necessary?
Um, See, like if you're gonna have a finished product, then I think it's a little bit more necessary. If
Sure.
you're just gonna have something that you want to add to everyday recipes or to put in your coffee, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. And
Uh-huh.
that dude, that's an awesome idea, man. And I'd like to talk a little more about that. But something came to my head too with that. I've also heard people say the temperature thing. If you have a batter and it's infused or a cookie and it's infused,
Hmm.
I've heard the idea that some can burn off at certain temperatures. Well, what's your thought on that? I should have rolled one up too. I just got my vape here. Some live resin's tasty in this thing though.
I think it doesn't matter what temperature you set this little baby to, you're always going to have some kind of burn off. You know what I'm saying? You're always going to have some sort of dissipation from the second you break the bud down.
This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best, bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, ayy.